What's up, Aaron, Canadian Looney? We're trying to bring the most entertaining pieces of committees. These are a couple of old pieces. Chrystia Freeland, though, she was brutal. She's going to be going head-to-head here with Larry Brock and Jasraj Hallan, two of our favorites to watch on here. But Chrystia Freeland is a special kind of witch. Let's just take a look and a listen. This woman is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
With MP Hallan for 6 minutes, please.
Thanks, Chair. Minister, have you seen our common sense conservative leaders' brilliant 15-minute documentary on the housing hell in Canada that's been viewed over 4 million times?
I am certainly familiar with the conservative scheme on housing. I haven't watched the video itself.
Okay, so I would strongly encourage that you do watch it, because it's a common sense conservative plan how to build more homes and not more bureaucracy. And while you're at it, maybe like, share, and subscribe so others can see a common sense conservative plan on how to get housing fixed as well.
I'm happy to comment on the conservative scheme today. In fact,
your government's housing agency, CMHC, says that 3.5 million additional homes need to be built in Canada by 2030 to restore housing affordability. Your housing agency, the same one, the head of that agency says that, it said 2 days ago at the Senate Finance Committee, that your government has no plan to reach that number. In fact, in this committee, that same agency, your housing agency, says that that target is not attainable under current conditions because of high interest rates and because of higher costs that were caused by your government. In other words, your own housing agency has no faith in you or your government. If your own housing agency has no faith in you, why should Canadians?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Hallan. You asked me to comment on the conservative scheme on housing.
I didn't ask you to comment on that. I made a comment.
In fact, invited me to, so let me comment.
I'd like to hear an answer.
First of all, I would point out...
Point of order.
Point of order.
Mr. Hallan, as he does every time the minister comes, asks a question or makes a statement and then refuses to allow the minister to answer. And so, Mr. Chair, I would just ask we allow the minister to answer the questions out of respect for the minister and the other members of this committee, but also the folks at home who are watching who would like to hear the answers.
The question is about our department not having faith in you.
MP Hallan, I am going to ask, like it did happen in the last meeting, a lot of crosstalk, you jumping in when you ask a question.
The question was not about the documentary. The question was about
you
her
ask the
department
question
not having faith
out
in
of
her.
respect and out of respect to everybody that's here.
Minister, can you please answer why Canadians should have faith in you,
MP Hallan,
even though your housing agency doesn't? That's the question.
MP Hallan.
I've asked my question.
MP Hallan, you asked a question. Allow the witness to answer the question.
She's not answering the question.
The witness did not even have a nanosecond to answer your question.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Not only is that irrelevant and untrue, and they're not answering the question, you shut me down by adjourning the meeting improperly. So could you please let Conservatives speak? I know you don't want to hear it as a Liberal. I know you don't want to hear about the housing hell, and you should watch the video too, I might add.
MP Lawrence,
Chair, I will ask my question again. Let's move on. I will ask my question again. It's my time, Chair. I will ask the question again.
Actually,
Minister,
let me
your
just
housing
say,
agency has no faith
I believe
in
that
your
MP
plan.
Hallan asked me a question.
Canadians?
I certainly believe the point of this exercise is for him to ask me a question. He offered quite a long
Questions on the
preamble
table 3
with
times
lots
now.
of points embedded in it.
Why should
and I'd
Canadians
like to
have faith in
respond
you
to
when your
those.
own agency doesn't?
If MP Hallan would like to
That's the
hear a
question.
response.
Allow the witness, please, to answer the questions.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out that Conservative senators have been reprimanded for bullying witnesses, and it would be terrible to have that kind of behavior.
Your Prime
here in the
Minister
House.
has been reprimanded for bullying strong women in his own caucus for standing up to his corruption.
So let me now speak about housing. And let me first point out that there is an internal contradiction in what the Conservative members of this committee have done when it comes to voting and their purported scheme on housing. Actually, I believe that your votes are very relevant.
There has to be, you have to stop interrupting.
Yeah.
Stop interrupting.
So I'll move on. I'll move on.
I haven't finished answering.
I'll move on. It's my time, and I only have limited time.
I'm afraid actually it's time for questions and answers, MP Hallan. So I would like to answer because I have things to say about housing because we have a plan.
This is exactly the reason why your non-answer proves why Canadians and your own housing agency has no faith in your government to meet the target.
Point of order.
What this proves is that the Conservatives do not want to actually listen to the answers.
Not
the
a
point of order is, excuse me. I have listened to you interrupt the minister and not allow her to speak. I have the right to make a point of order. Now I'm being interrupted and heckled during my point of order. Please, Chair, please, I'm asking you. Minister Freeland has the right to respond to the questions that are put to, and this is not. This is a point of order. Now I'm being heckled and interrupted.
It's not
during
a point of order. This is a breach of process.
This is.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
The witnesses have.
Okay.
I will move on.
MP Lawrence and MP
Chair,
Hallan.
This has descended so badly now that I'm being interrupted during my point of order.
Yes. Okay. Members, first off, stop the crosstalk. Okay. Stop the crosstalk.
I'll move on.
The other thing is, MP Hallan, MP Lawrence, any MP is we have interpreters here. You know, there's a lot of screaming going on. If members screaming into the mics, I think in my opening remarks I explained the danger, the health and safety to our interpreters. So I would ask, that is with crosstalk, that is with screaming, that is with not having respect and decorum here in this room. I think that is what we want.
Point of order.
Yeah, we are looking for respect and decorum. Point of order.
Please don't crosstalk. And I raised my voice at a reasonable tone, and you did not recognize it last meeting. So that's why I have to raise my voice, because I'm hoping you'll hear me, Chair.
I can hear you, MP Lawrence.
Chair, with respect, I'd like to move on to my next question. So we can agree that Canadians and your own housing agency don't have faith in your government, which they've already outlined. And that's why after your government spent $89 billion on photo op funds for housing promises that have not been actualized, rents, mortgages, the amount of down payment needed on a house has all doubled in just 8 years. This was never there before your government, and it certainly won't be there afterwards. Canadians are living in a housing hell and a cost of living crisis. 2 million Canadians are going into a food bank in a single month just in 8 years. There's a 100% increase in food bank usage. A third of those kids are kids that are starving because of high taxes like the carbon tax and other factors that have been caused by your government. The number one reason for food bank usage is because of the housing unaffordability that your government has created. 10 cities across this country, there are nurses living in their cars, there are students living under bridges. That's 8 years after your government. Why should anyone believe that anything that your government has done is actually helping addressing the affordability crisis?
Thank you for the question. Let me just start by saying Canadians know the Conservatives cannot be trusted when it comes to protecting the most vulnerable people in Canada. Since we formed government, 2.3 million Canadians have been lifted out of poverty, and our government has particularly. I'm sorry, Mr. Hallan. I'm speaking about poverty in Canada, which you purport to care about and which you purport to have addressed in your question. And I'd like to finish my answer, please.
It was about food banks.
The Canada Child Benefit has had a huge impact on Canadian families and is having an impact today, lifting millions and millions out of poverty, and the statistics show that. Our early learning and child care program
Minister,
is helping
question
Canadians.
Was clear. I'll have to move on because I have a limited amount of time.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You haven't given me a chance to answer, and that is not only rude,
2 million
it's
Canadians
inappropriate
are still going
at
into food bank. I'll just ask my last question because my time is limited. Your government promised by Thanksgiving that the price of food would go down. A scathing report came out this morning on the food index saying that food costs are going up, driven up also by your carbon tax because you're taxing farmers and those that are shipping the food and storing the food. Those people going into a food bank are increasing because of food costs and housing costs caused by your government. 83% actually that are going to food banks are working families. That's a phenomenon that we've never seen in this country before. So you promised on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving went by, food prices didn't come down. We thought maybe you meant the U.S. Thanksgiving. That went by as well. Nothing happened. It's almost Christmas time, and there's literally kids in this country asking Santa not for gifts, but just for food that they could put on their table. On what date will food prices actually come down so Canadians can afford to eat? And when will you axe the tax so people can put food on their table and heat their homes?
So let me just be clear. I've been repeatedly interrupted, and what we see is that Conservatives are interested in posturing. They're not interested in asking actual questions. But let me be clear. Canadians know that Conservatives only believe in cuts, 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 particularly for the most vulnerable among us. And that is why our government is so committed to supporting the most vulnerable, to supporting children. 2.3 million Canadians lifted out of poverty. The Canada Child Benefit, money directly for the most vulnerable children in our country. And when it comes to housing, the purported subject of this meeting, let me just be clear that the Conservative purported scheme actually would go backwards on housing. It would actually put the GST back on the construction of rental housing that we need. This is not a scheme. This is putting Canada into reverse, when actually what we need to do is build more homes faster.
Thank you, Minister. The time is up now, and so just on the timing, as members know. Each party has 6 minutes. If a question is asked when there's like 5.5 minute mark or 5:40, and the witness then is answering, the time will go over the 6 minutes. And that is as we have the practice that we have kept here on this committee, and that's what we will continue to keep doing unless the members decide otherwise. And now we are moving.
Oh, yeah. Freeland, you'll agree with me that the state-owned, taxpayer-funded Canadian Broadcasting Corporation reported on February the 10th, 2022, that the GoFundMe donations to the Convoy protest came from donors located outside of Canada. You'd agree with that?
I don't have the report in front of me, and I haven't memorized all CBC reports, but I'm prepared to believe you.
In fact, they stated that the donations came from America, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, and the Netherlands. You'd also accept that as fact?
I don't see the article before me, but you say that's what it says.
They even claimed that the convoy might be Russian-funded. Do you recall that?
Again, you're reading from the article.
Yes. On March 21st, 2002, the CBC, without any explanation, without apology, without any clarity, retracted their story regarding the funding of the protest. You were aware of that?
Again, I'm not speaking for the CBC. I'm speaking for the Ministry of Finance.
I'm not asking you to speak for the CBC. I'm asking, were you informed that the CBC retracted the story, the false story, about foreign funding donations to the convoy?
Again, Mr. Brock, I don't believe that the CBC is being interrogated here. I believe it's the government of Canada.
Just answer the question, Minister Freeland. Were you aware, yes or no? It's a simple question.
I don't have the article before me, and I'm not here to answer questions about the CBC and its
reporting. The Deputy Prime Minister, the most senior cabinet minister, is not prepared to accept whether or not the CBC retracted a false story?
I don't speak for the CBC, sir.
You, as the most senior cabinet minister and the deputy prime minister, relied upon that initial story from the CBC and shared your concerns with Canadians regarding terrorism funding and money laundering. Your words, correct?
Let me be very clear. My principal concern when it comes to the illegal occupation and the illegal blockades is the economic harm that was done to Canada.
Let me be very clear, Minister Freeland. Your words several times in the House referred to terrorism funding and money laundering. Are you saying you didn't use those words?
I am speaking here today, and I am talking about the central motivation of our very serious actions.
And I'm here to ask you questions, and I expect, unlike question period, I expect a response. So my response is, do you recall using the words terrorism funding and money laundering in the House and reporting outside the House? Yes or no, Minister Freeland?
I believe if we were in a court of law where I think you once worked, that might be called badgering the witness, Mr. Brock.
Chair?
Yeah.
Can we allow the question to be answered?
Thank you. as I said, my core concern as Minister of Finance and my central justification for these very serious measures that we put in place, as was clear in my opening statement.
You're not answering the question. I'm going to move on. You're not answering the question, and I will move on.
Madam Chair, on a point of order, it's entirely possible that Mr. Brock doesn't like the answers he's hearing, but the witness is entitled to provide an answer. If she could just be provided the opportunity to provide an answer.
Madam Chair, the witness may not like the questions, but she's not entitled to establish her own facts in responding to an answer that is non-responsive and not relevant to the question.
I'd actually just, we'll move back 20 seconds, allow you to ask your last question.
Do you agree with me that the Deputy Director of FinTrack, Mr. McKillop, confirmed at committee that the Convoy funding did not come from terrorism funding or money laundering, and the typical person who donated hundreds and thousands of dollars to the Convoy came from their own resources and posed no security threat? Do you accept that?
What I accept, Mr. Brock, is that the core threat was to the Canadian economy, to our reputation as a trading partner and investment destination.
Thank you for the non-response,
Minister. I made that clear in my
Minister.
Opening remarks, and that is my view.
Thank you for the non-response, Minister. Very helpful.
We'll move to Mr. Nakvi.
Oh, yeah. We'll wrap it up right there, gang. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. We cover Canadian federal politics here. We show old pieces like this to remember how things were and where they're going. Chrystia Freeland is very hard to forget. Like, never really want to see her back in the House of Commons unless she's going to start answering questions. Liberal voters, I know that it's hard to figure this out. Watch this channel. You'll figure it out pretty quickly. These Liberals are lying right to your face all the time, spending all your money, throwing it away on bogus when we have so many crises here in Canada. Mark Carney is a con man. Till the next video, thank you very much for watching this one. Like, share, subscribe. Get your Canadian federal politics right here. That's it. Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.